Welcome to the best hour of their day podcast with your hosts, Jason Fernandez.
And me, Jason Ackerman. With more than 20 years in the business,
as both coaches and affiliate owners,
our passion is to help create world-class affiliates
and coaches by building
better boxes. Welcome to
the best hour of your day. Buddy, thanks for coming out, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You came all the way to the CrossFit Games for this?
Just to talk to you guys, yeah.
Just for this. He definitely doesn't
family.
He definitely doesn't do this every year. This is definitely not something that is a regular occasion. But
you were saying this is the first podcast you've ever been on.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You guys are my first.
He said he hates podcasts.
I said something like that.
You don't enjoy listening to podcasts?
I don't absorb very well. I absorb much better when I read. So I kind of space out when the podcasts are going on. And I have to rewind and re-listen.
I think we all learn differently. We all retain differently.
Yeah.
So how'd you find out about us if you didn't listen to our podcast?
You were my level 1.
That's right, and level 2.
No, you were my level 2. You
Yeah.
weren't my level 1. I think you were in one of my wife's. You made such a great impression in my level 2 because you called out. Is this PG-13, by the way? Do I got to?
This is rated R.
X-rated.
All right.
Actually, take your pants off.
You called out some motherfucker who refused a hook grip, and I was like, "That's how you deal with objections."
I remember
and
you
was
told
like,
me that.
Yeah.
What did I do? Can you remind me of that? But you've told me this.
It was just this dude who refused, and like, I'm unwilling to try it even once. And you gave him like 3 swings of, "Are you willing to ever get better than this?" And he was obstinate, and you just moved on. And it didn't affect you. And I was like, I want to be that coach because I get pissed. Like, no, really.
Well,
The answer to that is I just don't give a shit. I'm like, you want to be stupid over there by yourself.
Which is
I
the
feel
opposite.
like I've gotten there. I'm making progress there.
The opposite of caring.
Yeah.
What's the opposite of caring?
Not giving a shit.
Yeah,
so I followed you guys on social media. I followed you on social media after that because I think there was a lot to learn in that space. And then when this stuff started popping up, I think we were at a bit of a transformative state. We were coming out of the weird COVID stages and kind of getting back to normal.
The time that we don't speak about.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Extremely instructive as a business owner to learn who around you is really bad at this job of dealing with unusual, unpredictable adversity.
Call it the dumb ages.
Yeah.
The dumb
Yeah,
ages.
evolution happened, right? Like a whole bunch of weak-ass species died off.
Oh, man.
Business-wise.
There was a...
Business-wise, I feel like I should step back a bit.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
And in life, I mean, the dodo bird is no longer around.
Thanks for bailing me out.
There you go. So, like you said, we met at your level 2. That time passes, and you think to yourself, I need some coaching, I need a mentor. I know you've worked with other mentors in the past. Like, that's part of who you are. You're always trying to grow.
I just thought about this just now when he said worked with other mentors. There was a snafu on the front end during your onboarding, was there not?
With us?
Was there? I feel like there was maybe a miscommunication where we like dropped the ball on something, and you gave us, or maybe.
Well, I was joining like the month before you guys made a platform change. So I just hammered through a bunch of homework, and then you changed platforms. Like, that was the only thing that I remember there being any kind of disconnect on.
There was some really good candid feedback there, and then the conversation we had
software transition was what we talked about,
Oh, I was thinking about Brandon Garcia.
ELM?
Where we just had to move a call, and he was just like, I've been burned like this before.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
I was like, that's not
Now
the
we've been to
case,
their
dude.
box, they're loving it.
So,
and I do think that working with Buddy, that is something I appreciate. Candidness, you're direct, and you give us feedback, and different.
Yeah, I was gonna say what's interesting is like, oh, you guys don't work with gyms you guys work with dumpster fires, and I'm like, well, that's not inaccurate. We do, but we work with a lot of gyms who are not in despair, right, and have looking for the thing, and that's where I would like. Buddy's no dummy. Like, we'll talk about your background and all that kind of stuff. Like, you, very, very intelligent person.
Yeah, it is obvious. If you listen to the entire podcast, keep listening. It comes off pretty apparently that Buddy's smart.
Yeah, and well, he's one of the I have a few. They give them to me. They give me the competent ones. They give Jay the people. So if you guys have Jay as your coach, but the Buddy's one of those people who I'll like not hear from him for a little bit. He's like, hey, I'm doing the thing. I don't need anything right now.
He's like, stop checking in on me.
Yeah. Leave me alone. Stop spamming me, you turds. I'm like, I don't need any more of those.
Does your wife always wear her hat so low like that?
Oh, yeah, gangster.
Yeah.
What, is she
Detroit.
Witness protection over here or something?
Yeah.
Wearing some
Not want to get recognized?
Incognito.
Yeah, she's like
undercover right now.
When we met her the other night, I was like, I never saw her eyes. Does she have eyes? Does she pose that
Brilliant blue eyes.
Cold soul.
How'd you guys meet?
High school.
Ooh, really?
She tells
come
it
on,
better.
come tell it. First of all, tell everybody your name.
Carrie Brady with an I.
With an I. And you guys met in high school, as Buddy was saying?
Yes.
What's it been like seeing Buddy's evolution as an entrepreneur? How's that impacted the marriage in a positive or negative way?
Oh, absolutely positive. I mean, as you were saying, should I?
Yeah, but then also look, Nate's doing a good job moving around you.
Less
but yeah.
gangster.
Yeah, I like it.
As you were saying, he was in information technology for years, really smart at what he was doing.
He's a very smart dude. Was he always this smart?
Helping, always.
Not always as
A
wise.
student, like valedictorian?
Oh, no.
No.
If he would have
No.
applied himself.
Oh,
Were you in
my
the Key Club?
goodness.
I barely graduated
Student
high school.
council?
No, that's not true.
Absolutely
No.
true. Barely graduated.
Because you were too busy chasing the ladies.
Just one.
Just one, you got her.
After the first one said no.
Yeah, you chased two, technically.
Yeah.
I
Hey, 50-50.
got the right one.
That's
I
good.
got
And those
the right
odds
one.
are, that's a good conversion rate as far as I'm concerned.
That's like a lead. Say if you're closing on 50%.
guys.
So,
The worst advice podcast ever.
Yeah.
he was in information
IT.
technology. Yeah.
Yeah. So, really smart at what he did, helping a lot of Fortune 100 companies make money, right? He was good at it, but he's like, no, this isn't the way I want to help people. I need to help people in a different way. So, like, comes home one day, he's like, I'm done with this. I need to do something different.
And
Okay.
you had a kid at this point,
What do you
obviously,
wanna
'cause,
do?
yeah.
I'm going to open a CrossFit gym. Okay, let's figure that out together.
You say that?
Yeah,
Well, that's why
definitely.
she's-
I think she said it with that exact
Yeah.
attitude, by the way.
Whatever's going to help you, like, find that purpose and joy and be happy. And
You had zero
do what you want to be
reservations.
doing
You
every day.
didn't ask any questions.
Absolutely. No. Like, let's go.
Because you
Ride or
believe in
die
him.
right
You
there.
believe in the
Yeah.
hubby.
Yeah. We were already athletes and he was already a coach. So,
Where's
yeah,
this?
Let's go and explore.
So we started in North Carolina. We started training down there, and then we relocated back to Michigan
Chill out, Nate. Nobody
for
cares about
her
North
career.
Carolina.
And when we got back to Michigan, we wanted to recreate what we found in our gym in North Carolina.
Which box was it there?
This at the time was CrossFit South Wake, which is kind of in between Raleigh and Fayetteville as the military gym. Very, very high standards, very rigid expectations on coaches, and that's their fault the way I am. John Harper, Scott Fisher, there's my shout-outs. But when we came back to Michigan, we were coming back. We spent our entire lives in the city we live in. We spent about 6 years in North Carolina. And we're like, we have to have this in our lives. We're either going to find it or we're going to build it, one or the other. So,
You couldn't find it.
no, not what we wanted it to be. We found,
Were you going to affiliates in the Michigan area?
yeah, we were at one that was on its way, kind of failing.
Well, what were some of the things you looked at when you say, we have to find this?
Was it what you wanted it to be? What did you want it to be?
What was missing?
I mean, stuff that sounds super easy to talk about. Coaches that coached and didn't participate in a class or sit on a plyo box and point at
I
a
was
whiteboard.
just told today that is still a
Still a
thing in
fucking
some
well, we were
places.
at
Still
the
a
lecture I
fucking thing.
gave. The girl had
Give a
asked.
lecture?
It was more
I
of
thought
like
it was just
a
stand-up.
presentation.
I thought it was a stand-up routine.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate
I
that.
saw it on the scheduled comedy session.
Meaning you're a joke. Yeah.
Comedy with Jason Ackerman. So you couldn't find that, and you're like, and I think that's really important. Like, well, if it's not here, we have an option of staying in a place that's not fulfilling what we need, or going and doing the thing ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and how you build coaches, how you build community, how you dedicate yourself to improving the lives. Like, that either has to be there or we're not doing this for the right reasons. And so it required a hard reset. It required a rebuild, and it said, like, here's the new standard. The line is here. It will not move. And again, the stuff you guys talk about all the time was part and parcel of the way we built those coaches and the way we built our business and the way we found what we were going to do. And in that space we started in, we found what would become our business partners, which is a couple, Lisa and Casey, saw what we were trying to become, saw the way we were trying to do it, wanted to be part of the build process there as I say as investors, but as deeply entrenched in it as we are, and wanted to help us launch that thing, and have been bolted together ever since through all the weird COVID bullshit and the recovery from that bullshit. They empower the dream, like, is the way I look at that. So they saw what we were trying to build and kind of saw the steps we were about to take and wanted to jump right in and make that go faster and further. So non-CrossFit coaches, but dedicated CrossFit athletes. So.
One of the things I've appreciated most in working with you, do you know these people?
Yeah, these are my people.
Oh,
this is my squad.
Because the other day I only met your wife and your son. I didn't realize there was other people.
So my coach Mandy, my coach Tiffany, and then I say Pat's the middle generation of a 3-generational group of athletes that train with us. His mom trains with us, his wife trains with us, and then his 3 children train in our kids program as well. So
that's badass.
It's like,
that's my favorite story.
It's like Jocko, who's just got an entourage following him around.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, this is my entourage.
This has been the biggest,
And Jocko's entourage no-showed, so we won that fight.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
One of the things I've appreciated the most about you is you do seem to have everything pretty dialed in, but you always show up to calls curious, willing to listen, willing to learn, and also at times offering feedback because you've been through a lot of it. And I think that's like a perfect student, like that nice balance of I'm here to learn, I'm here to help, and I'm receptive.
I think it's the only way in anything we do, right? You got to know what you've done well, you got to know what you've done poorly, and everybody else has those 2 stories to tell too. And I can learn from your mistakes, and I can learn from your wins, and what applies to me.
But that is a lot of the disconnect, is that there's oddly a lack of awareness for a lot of people. They think they do certain things well, and they're not aware of what they're really bad at, which is, it's a big bridge to gap, and it can be painful, which is why a lot of people fail. And I'm not just talking about the gym space, just generally speaking. But what were you, when you were like, hey, I'm reaching out and you obviously you've had other mentors, so this is not your first rodeo. You're constantly seeking out help, but like, what specifically were you looking for at that time?
I think I know I build amazing coaches. I know I build incredibly capable athletes. And I know a ton of things about relatively large businesses. I don't know a ton of things about operating a relatively small business in a relatively rural demographic. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the hard disconnect I saw with a lot of business mentors in the CrossFit space. It's like, here's your 400 members a month micro gym strategy. And I'm like, I don't want that, first of all.
It's a corporate strategy. And I'm like, this is a brick and mortar mom and pop kind of style game.
Yes.
And many of those things lack context.
And I think what I saw with you guys in the first onboarding conversations with you guys, I think that was the most important questions that you were answering for me was, I don't need a 40,000 square foot strategy. Mm-hmm. I don't need 400 members a month strategy. I'm in a tiny, relatively speaking, small town.
Right.
If I can maintain 100 really happy members, like I'm going to freaking kill it year over year in a relatively small square footage space. And I know quality is everything to me. So if you ever tell me, double the number of people in my class and I'm going to make more money, I'm like, I don't give a shit. I care how much each one of them is getting out of my time and out of my coach's time. And it has to come back to that quality message. And you guys hit that really hard when we first talked. And then being able for you guys to hear the demographic conversation. Like, I don't care what you can do with a gym in Manhattan. I don't care. It's meaningless to me as a small...
It's literally apples and oranges.
Quality of coaching, I have stuff to learn there from you, absolutely. Right. Like, what works in a 40-person class, I will get better watching that happen. Running my books, running my business, having rent negotiations, like, that's different than what the Manhattan problem has to look like. For me, I'm rural, I'm small town. Yeah. What questions should I ask? And you guys being able to scale up and scale down that relativity is super important to me, and you answer those questions hard in the beginning.
And these are the things that I experienced when I was on the other end of the transactions. It's just like, oh, you can just charge this much a month. And I'm like, that's not accurate. Like, I could think of a dozen places off the top of my head that you can't charge $200. And this is the thing that like really chaps my ass, with just like, well, you got to charge what you're worth. And I'm like, well, we should have a conversation about that. What are you worth? Yeah. Number one. And then number two, you can't charge anything that the economy won't tolerate. So it's like Brooklyn is not Western Virginia.
Yep.
Okay. You found 3 people who can pay you $600 a month. Good for you. Well done. You've tapped out.
Yeah.
Like you're done. Yeah. So I think I'm going to toot our own horn.
Let's do it.
I think that is what we do better than anybody, which is the context part, which is like having seen so many affiliates, and being entrenched in the CrossFit space, like knowing like, hey, there's some principles here. However, right after that is like context. Hey, do this, do it a slightly different way. Like we talked at length about like when you're working through your prices and your pricing suite, and then you're onboarding. And none of those conversations are ever like, you must do this. Right. It's like, hey, tell me a little bit more. Like, when do you want to do that? Like, how are we going to manage your clients when we work ourselves through this problem? But you always had very direct questions. You were in the minority, I would say, when you'd be like, hey, I want to know this. You had like very, very specific questions. Like, oh, okay, that makes my work easier in here, which is probably why we didn't have to, interact as much as I have to with other people, which is fine. I don't care. I'll interact as much as you want. But it does make it easier when you're like, oh, no, I know what I need. I just need you to tell me kind of how to make that work.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, cool. That's easy to plug in.
And I think the value that I would say that you get, the reason I got to easy questions, or specific questions, not necessarily easy, but the reason I got there is you spent time throughout the process, and a lot of time early on, in teaching me the questions to ask, not the answer. And that's every mentor I look at, and any hobby that I ever have, don't tell me answers. So answers are meaningless. Answers have an end point. If we're talking jiu-jitsu, if it's got a weight limit or a size limit, I don't want to learn the technique. That doesn't freaking matter anymore.
Right.
So teach me the question that I have to ask, and then go forward and answer from there. Because I think that's the value you're going to bring to an affiliate of any size, is give me a dozen questions that I must know the answers to run a successful business, teach people well, and build amazing coaches. If I can create answers to those questions on my own, kick ass. If I can't, I got parachutes to pull on, and that's the part where
or
the
you're like,
teaching
hey,
of the questions.
Yeah, or you're like, hey, I'm thinking about this. I just wanted to bounce this off of you. I'm like,
yeah,
I'm like, I agree with that.
That's a typical buddy. You were on a call recently I had, and you asked like a really basic question. I don't remember what it was. Remember you said I have two questions. I have an easy one and a hard one.
I can't talk about the easy one anymore. But
I don't even remember what it was. Well, what was the hard one then?
Well, no.
Which one can't you talk about?
The hard one I can't talk about. The easy one was bringing a physical therapist in-house. And how to talk about what that looks like. Because I'm way ahead of the curve. And most of the stuff where I feel like I get to the good questions because I spent a ton of cycles thinking about it.
Right.
I hit it from every angle I can think of.
Maybe.
A bunch of angles you guys present.
Maybe even... maybe too slow, or like what some
Sure.
not in a bad way, but you're like you could have made that decision sooner.
Sure.
Like there would have been no.
But that's
issue
what I
with
like about Buddy, because like that, I was like, this is not a buddy question. Like this is, I feel like this was too easy. But I like that you do that because the point being, I'm open to listening, and I think a lot of times you do that. Like you could have probably solved the issue, the question, the problem yourself. But you like to hear, you're very analytical in that sense. Maybe that's your IT background.
I joke about it. The reason I was a horrible student is I'm an incredibly confrontational learner.
I can see that.
I challenged you during my level 2.
Did you?
I remember the challenge.
What was the challenge? Did I win?
It was, of course you won. How could you not win? You had the fucking red shirt on.
But we
tell me, it was and I've done this with 2 different. So Andrew Charlesworth got one of these in my level 1. I think you got mine in level 2.
I did better.
Tell me how a sumo deadlift high pull is a functional movement.
Ooh, I like that one.
argued it. Do you remember your answer?
I don't, but it's probably
answer.
Was it? Well,
it was imagine
listen,
pulling.
Buddy, I don't know that it was brilliant.
For me,
No,
at the
he
time,
said brilliant.
like,
He said brilliant.
the clouds
It's an
parted,
acceptable answer. I know where you're going with this. As soon as you did that, I know exactly.
Pulling a child out of a pool, and I was
Yep.
like, "Oh man, my wife and I whitewater raft all the time. It is the 100% same movement yanking a dude out of the water."
dude,
and I'm
and
like,
no joke,
100%.
because that must have been pre this happening. I saved an old man.
Okay.
No, for real.
I absolutely
when I lived
believe
in
you.
Florida,
I'm like, no
I was
wonder
in
it was such a good
Naples.
example.
No, and I
Yeah.
think this happened after you say this. I was in a hot tub.
With an old man.
With this old man.
Look, easy.
Consenting adults.
I had a girlfriend at the time, dude. Pre-Roz. I was dating a girl. We were sitting in the hot tub just chilling. This old man's kind of hanging out. And then
He's in there too long, probably.
his wife was like, hey, we got to go. And he's like, just still hanging. And he looks at me. He's like, I can't feel my legs. And I was like... And he's
you
like,
feel him?
No joke. At one point,
the Viagra.
he just started like floating. And I was like laughing, but I was like, "Oh, this dude's for real." And I had to go behind him in like lounge chairs. I dragged him out, and I was like, "Oh," and I literally in the moment was like, "That was a sumo deadlift high pull."
Well, that's the exact same. Not from a hot tub, but. That's essentially the dead man, like a fireman's carry, which is like somebody
which
is
they've done at the
incapacitated.
games in the past.
Yeah, they did it with what they call the buddy.
Rescue Randy?
Yeah, Rescue Randy.
Yeah.
Where you have to, underneath the armpits, that is stance, grip, everything up to this position. That is a sumo deadlift high pull. Like it's it's arguably one of the more functional movements in there. Anyway.
What was Andrew's answer? Do you remember?
Not that
so
good.
I argued the
Yeah.
pistol squat. I said, how's the
okay,
pistol
so-
squat functional? He's like, have you ever been a tall guy getting out of a short car? And I'm like, I'm not that tall, but I see what you're saying, and I respect your answer. It's
that's
a
weak.
I feel like
single-legged squat. I was like, all right, dude.
That's kind of
I feel like mine
I
was
don't
better.
think. Yeah, yours was better.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
Andrew,
That's
for
also
sure.
it's also
Andrew.
not shocking. It's Andrew Charlesworth.
Put your mic closer. That's what he's saying.
I'm
Make it,
mumbling.
yeah, there you go.
Your beard is too sexy. You've taken the level 2. What with our tutelage are some of the things you've noticed at the box? Because you were, like we said, running a successful affiliate. What are some of the changes you've implemented in the last 12 to 18 months?
A lot of programs, and that's very ambiguous, but the programs, the committed club kind of stuff, the ambassador program kind of stuff, the things that are further pulling people kind of into the community support aspect and the community support roles where it's not just leaning on it's retention, but it's also like people connections too, and
which is retention.
Okay, fine. Yeah, fine. I'm not arguing with. But for me, it's like
two relationships.
We're in violent agreements.
It's a sumo deadlift type.
No, but and I think we hear that a lot. Maybe not a lot, but I've heard that from other clients and other affiliate owners. Like, that's cool, but I need to get more members, or I need to do this. I'm like, these little things that you don't think are that. Yeah. Your committed club, all of a sudden, more than 50% of your members are coming in 16 times a month. That's retention. You have an ambassador program. Now your members are psyched to be the liaison. Your new people have a liaison.
Yeah.
Those little things. It's one of those things where you look back and you're like, how did we get to 100 members?
Yeah.
These little tiny crumbs along the way.
Yeah.
I don't know if I know this off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure I don't. How many referrals were you getting before you started tweaking things?
I would say, maybe 1 to 2 a month of people that knew people that were coming in.
And then what does that look like now? About the same?
I would say I would call it closer to 3 a month on average, but the number of just raw leads showing up month over month is, and again, I'm doing nothing. I haven't changed my social media, I haven't changed marketing, I haven't changed website, so we're still just at the core.
You're in a pretty rural area.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the hometown of the Dow Chemical Company, right? So we have a huge multinational corporation there, and we also have a relatively large regional hospital. Those are my members. That's where I'm pulling people from. So
basically, everybody there is somehow associated with those two organizations.
One of those two, or they work for my wife's trade.
Right.
It's one of the three. So good news. There's always a pretty good influx of travelers coming in for one or the other. Bad news is people get relocated all the damn time. So I think,
a lot of churn.
I probably lost a dozen members in the last 12 months with relocations because of one of those companies just.
I don't even think
you're going to
that
Singapore.
bad.
No, it's not bad.
That's like.
But
I
going to military town.
I can do that in a month.
Yeah, what you guys are going to see. For us, so I say 40,000 people is our town size, our kind of greater area.
Not small, but
not tiny.
Right.
I don't have metro problems, right?
Right.
And I'm surrounded by cornfields, right?
Right.
So I go from relatively small town to rural in a pretty quick shift.
And how many members do you currently have?
We're just below 80 right now.
Okay, and I think
2 more relokes.
Yeah, and I think
you said you had 5
5 coming for August.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, a good goal, and again, going back to what we said, we'd love to see you at 100 members, but a smaller town. But I think you definitely have the capacity with 40,000 people.
Sure.
Are you struggling to manage your gym efficiently and still losing clients in the process? Wodify solved this problem for me and tons of other gyms. Wodify is a top-rated customer retention platform trusted by over 5,000 businesses nationwide. Wodify's biggest impact on my business is the ability to streamline tasks, the ability to get information pushed to me instead of me having to go into the system or call customer support to figure out what information I need to operate my business most effectively. This is where Wodify has changed my interaction with my staff and my clients and allowed me to run a top tier CrossFit affiliate for the past 8 years. That's how long I've been on Wodify, for 8 years. Well before anybody else was on there and early to the game, and they've continued to improve their product year over year. Give Wodify a try today and join me and thousands of other businesses that have already transformed their operations by going to wodify.com/podcast. And the best part is you'll get 50% off your first 3 months by using my link.
And that's the cool thing about CrossFit. There's probably enough to support multiple affiliates.
Yeah, there's several affiliates in our area. That's again, it's a and again, you guys have, another thing I'd say, you guys helped change some of my mindset on that. I think I struggled before watching the way we did things differently, those affiliates, and some of the reputational stuff. There had been really rough affiliates in our area before, like if you're not throwing up during on-ramp, you're not doing CrossFit kind of vibe. And
that's true.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, perfect. No, come and play. That's how you get soccer moms. Make them puke everywhere.
Yeah, throw up. You'll lose weight. No, that's not good. One of the things I think you have done very well, and even to the point where you were adamant about it recently in a conversation that we had, was you're very methodical, which is not the norm for affiliate owners, meaning like affiliate owners like do all the shit, right? They're like, I'm going to do all these things. You're like, I do A, then I do B, then I do C, and I don't break from that process. Like he and I were having a conversation. He's like, I know you guys are trying to move everybody to this new format. He's like, but I'm not doing it.
I've heard about that. I heard it. Sorry.
Yeah. And he was just like, and you guys don't need to send me emails anymore. And I was like, all right, buddy. I'll tell everybody to leave you alone. It's fine. But he was direct, and I was like, cool, that actually helps me. But I understood why. He was like, I want to finish exactly what I had laid out, and then we could talk about the next thing. And I'm like, perfect. I'm fine with that. As long as you and I are on the same page about what that looks like moving forward, and I'm confident you have this plan to continue progress, I'm good. I don't care.
Well, that goes back to what I said. I think more people need to have the ability to do that. Like I've never, I can't speak for Fern or the team, but I'm pretty certain no one's ever interpreted something Buddy said as like, that guy's a jerk. I've never.
That's true.
She's got a hard shaking head over
on
there.
our team, not in
Oh,
your
on your
family.
team. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I mean that's
On
a
our
smaller.
team.
No,
smaller
Katie's like, I think,
I've been rude to Katie.
Yeah, she was like, I think
I've been rude
Buddy's,
to Katie.
I think Buddy's angry.
Have
And
you
I was
been
just
rude to
like,
Katie?
Yeah.
What are you rude to Katie
I
about?
don't
Listen,
remember. I remember apologizing.
You just made a lot of the
Katie,
the
are
viewers
you back there? Because we need to fix this.
upset.
I was
Yeah.
rude to very nice Katie. I
Is
apologize.
Katie back there, Brian?
I'll apologize
Katie,
again.
She's still crying back there.
Yeah, but let's get her out here. Let's have an apology session. No, but I can at least say I've never felt that way, and I don't think Fern has, because we appreciate directiveness.
But I understood it, right? Like, and I understand. Like, he's got a lot of like A-type energy. I do too. I'm like, I recognize it. I know he's not mad at me or doing like. He's literally like, we don't need to talk about it. This is what I want, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's easy. So, it's not that big of a deal. But on that note, we've talked about some scenarios where that can be challenging as a coach.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How have you ever had that?
I don't know what we're talking about.
Well,
You're directed, like, you can be so direct as a coach, even though you have the best of intentions, it can be interpreted as rude or.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Talk to us.
You and I have walked through a couple of different.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I've got this client who's just like whatever, and I'm like, yeah. I was like, let's tiptoe a little bit.
Yeah, and I think those come down to how, like, the energy I take into a coaching relationship and the energy I get back from that athlete, and if there's a disconnect there, and if there's either on either side or on both sides a perception of we're not doing what we should do, we're not interacting the way we should interact, we're miscommunicating, or there's a lot of friction in that relationship,
Right.
and it's been. And the hilarious part is the biggest one of those I've had. We realize we're doing the exact same thing in the exact same way, and it's bumping in an incredibly unproductive way. And we're both like, I'm just going to give you all the fucking space you need because you don't seem to be enjoying yourself here.
Right.
Walk us
and we were
through
both
that.
wrong.
What was it?
It was exactly that. It was someone who was in a place, and I think I was in a place too, and we're carrying different energy into that equation, and we're both like, we're bumping in a negative way. We're not getting along. I'm not producing good results as your coach. You're not responsive to what I'm doing as a coach. You're not responding as an athlete. And I pull back, and I'm like, you're not doing what I'm asking you to do, and you're not telling me why you're not doing it. So I'm just going to give you space to figure your shit out.
But that's good.
Because there's some of those people that
goes
just need
back
space.
That's the hook grip.
Sure, but however, the problem is I gave it too much space, and they're like, "Why are you neglecting me?" It's okay.
Well, it's more about how smart I am that I taught him a lesson.
You taught me a lesson. What you didn't teach me is how to keep him from feeling neglected when you give him space.
I didn't want to give it to you all.
Yeah, no, that was on. I had to
because
learn
now
that
you're
one.
gonna have to come back for year 2 with affiliate.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So too much space, and it felt neglected, and like, you obviously don't like me. You're leaving me alone, and I'm like, that's not. I thought you didn't. It's who is hating each other harder than you realize.
How'd you find that? How'd you fill that void?
A really uncomfortable conversation
with a member.
Which was the conversation that he and I had.
But it was uncomfortable for 15 seconds.
And now, rather than for an hour every day, and then you're no longer coming in. How was it? What was the conversation?
We are both wrong. Wham, wham, wham. Like, it was that. We both realized how bad we were for each other, and I'm like, well, I don't want that for you, and they felt the same way, and
it was misinterpretation.
It was just
I'm interpreting what you're doing as something, and you're interpreting what I'm doing as something, and neither of which are correct.
Yeah. And no one. It's really frustrating when you're like, I'm only trying to help this person, right? And, And that really is the art of coaching. Being able, and I think the good news is it's like seeing and correcting. I don't know the cue, but I know something's wrong.
I know that's not right.
Yeah. Same here, where it's like, I don't know what the way to fix it, and that's why you get Fern to chime in, but it's like,
sure,
I feel that there's a disconnect here.
Well, and I think the important part that I would always go back to is the easy answer is just fucking fire him. Right.
And I think I
stepped on that line 100 times. Today's the day.
I think that's how we got there. You're like, here's what I'm going to do. And I was like,
let me tell you how much worse it was. I kept an envelope of cash
to give back
her monthly membership, and I said, I'm waiting to hand it back because you're not happy. Like, you're obviously not happy here. And now it is like one of the happiest members.
Yeah,
every class
still there
through the fucking roof.
Yeah.
Wow.
Super happy.
You guys know who he's talking about? Big difference. Was it you?
He should not know.
Yeah.
If he knows, I fucked a bunch of things up.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No,
but on that line of like, she's not happy here.
He was ready. And I was
ready.
I was like, hey, let's pump the brakes a little bit.
What's crazy about this is Fern, the two
was
of
the
you
voice of reason?
should not be working together. It should be me and Buddy, because you two are way more similar than Buddy and I are.
Well, no, here's the deal. No, because you would have been, get rid of her.
No, this is a scenario. I would have said that?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Why do you
get
say
rid of her
that?
fire because you're lazy. And you're like, it's easier to get rid of them than have a conversation.
Fair. You might be right. You should get rid of her.
Yeah.
And then what made you, Fern, realize this isn't a fireable offense? This is like...
Well, I don't know that it wasn't a fireable offense, right? I think this is something... We've talked about it on seminar staff, and I don't know who to credit it to, but it is, always assume positive intent, or if I was to steal some term from the book I'm reading, unreasonable hospitality, is just like, give the charitable assumption. Assume that this person is not here to fuck your day up. Like, just assume that, like, hey, I didn't wake up this morning and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to piss everybody off. Yeah, I'm going to choose violence today. Yeah, so, and once you, like, take a second and be like, hey, what are the odds that this person's just got something going on in their life and I happen to be the easy punching bag in this scenario? And I'm like, probably pretty high.
I think there's two quotes. One, also from staff, you never know what someone's going through.
Correct.
And then secondly, don't attribute to malice what can be attributed to ignorance, right?
Or stupidity.
Yeah, and I think there are very bad members out there that are just bad human beings. But like Fern said, what I've learned is no one wants to be that bad member, right? They just, like you realize, like we're just off. I think that's commendable that you, one, brought it to Fern's attention, A, or B, listened to Fern, and now rectified it. That's really cool.
The unacceptable fault that must be learned from is how long I waited to get to that point. Like, that's the part where I'm like, never again.
Yeah.
Never again. It took me and I mean, like, over a year of just taking
there was
hits.
a lot of attention.
It was a long time.
There,
and it never came to just sit down and speak. And I'm like, that's on me.
That's ego, right?
I'm a deep introvert in a lot of ways, and I'm like,
too.
it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation.
Well, me too.
I believe it's in there.
Well, but I think that's if we were to, most either staff issues or member issues are probably now a pain point for you because like you just didn't address it soon enough. Just be like, hey, I feel like I did it yesterday. I was giving that talk up there or whatever that was, and
wasn't as funny as mine. It wasn't a comedy show.
Mine was actually productive and valuable. I answered a question up there, and as soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like, I don't know if you took that the wrong way, but I'm not happy with the way I answered it.
You said that?
Well, not right there in the moment. But as soon as we broke, I ran down. She happened to be right here, and I was like, hey, listen, I need to apologize. I'm not happy with the way I answered your question, and I would like to rectify that.
But that's a big deal. Like, I don't say that lightly. Like, most people either wouldn't even realize they did that, and those that did,
the words were coming out of my mouth,
would never have come down.
I was upset with myself. I was like, why was I not prepared?
What was it?
It was just like, hey, how much does this cost? And I was like,
oh yeah.
And I was just like, why am I not prepared to answer that? But B, that's not the interaction that I wanted to have. So I came back and I was like, hey, I'm not happy with that. I'll sit down and talk to you about this, and that's fine. So two lessons learned there. But she was totally cool. She's like, listen, I get it. I'm not offended. And I'm like, that's kind of not the point. I'm still not happy with it. And it could have been better is the point. But now for sure, I'm not going to lose sleep over that. Like you and I we've talked it out, and we're good.
When you feel like you've done the best you can, it's easier to sleep at night.
We've addressed it. Now what we do from it there, there's nothing I can do about that now. But like I've gone back in and be like, I've addressed this now. At least I've done my part to try to rectify whatever I might have broken in the process of doing that.
I think something the three of us have in common, we've dug into or at least tried to improve the ego? Because I think a lot of what we're talking about relates to ego.
Yeah.
Right? That's an ego thing.
100%.
Like, I was wrong, but I'm not admitting it.
Yeah.
You're just ego. You not wanting to talk.
That one was not. I would tell you straight up, that one was panic.
No, but ego
was,
in the sense that
straight
you
up.
could
I
have been
have no
like, I
problem
messed up
saying
and I'm not doing anything
Yeah, I
about
messed up. I
it.
was like, oh,
No, you coming down
answer,
here was
you know?
like putting my ego aside. Hey.
Correct. Yeah, sorry.
Same with you, like talking.
same thing.
And for that 1 year gap, you were probably just battling your ego. You just weren't aware that because.
Well, and again, there's so many layers to that too. There's that insecurity of like, am I the
ego,
wrong
right?
person for this person? Do I even have anything to offer in this
Right.
equation? If they are genuinely unhappy, how does that reflect on what I'm trying to do? Like, there's a bunch of that stuff. It absolutely boils down to ego, but it's that how do you reconcile those insecurities that you wouldn't normally say is an insecurity? Because we do this shit all the time. I do this with 90 people a week, right? Like, but that one, man, I was stuck and I couldn't get to that, like, how is it me?
Right.
How can I be more of what she needs?
That's the question. How is it me rather than how is
It's
it
her.
you?
Yeah.
Right? How is it me? But you mean you train jiu-jitsu?
I do.
It's all.
all.
I mean, what? And that's why I think everyone should, because there's no ego anymore.
Not
Like
for
that
long.
little girl's choking. That little girl's choking me out.
Not for long, yeah.
Yeah. My ego's gone. Like,
Yeah.
I can address the little stuff because I'm like, I'm losing, to small children.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's true. You'll
Yeah.
see. We gotta get him on the map.
yeah.
I listen. All I need is like a little bit of time. I'm in.
You'll get there.
I'm in.
You'll
I'm
get
in.
there. But that's a huge personal growth, and I think with hiring a mentor, it should be that. It should be systems, and it should be coaching, but there should be some personal growth attributed to it as well.
Yeah, you guys have to ask hard questions or you're not earning my money. Like, that's the end of it for me. Like, if you're not challenging my existing ideas about myself, what the fuck am I paying you for?
I will tell you that's not the norm.
Okay.
It's not the norm that it's the norm that we do that. It's not the norm that that's what you
It's not the norm that
want.
people want that.
But and again, it goes
yeah.
back to the mastermind, like we spoke about with push press. Like, we had that mastermind, and it was always like a layer deeper, and that's what we're getting at with this. Like,
I need to do this. I
Most
need to do
people
this. And
just
I'm
have
like,
this.
What do you want?
Really, what it is like, why? Like, internally, what do you want? Why do you want that? And like I said, from day one, I love all of our clients, but I definitely have some, like, when we get on that call, I'm like, this guy gets it, and we're gonna have a great relationship because of that. It's cool.
The other, I attribute this comment to you all the time. Buddy's the automation guy.
Oh,
He was like, he's like, all automation does is make you really bad really fast. And I was like,
I remember that quote. Yeah, I
I
remember
was
when
like,
you shared that.
is exactly correct, which is why I don't even know how that came up. I think it might have been a small group call.
Yeah,
and somebody
small
was
group
like
call.
doing
You've
all
said
this,
that numerous
and Buddy
times,
was just
yeah.
like, let me chime in here and clear this up for everybody. And I was like, he's right.
spent a lot of time talking big
what's
business
one
on
thing
that.
you can relate that
So
to?
give your background real quick. Like what?
Yeah,
so you mentioned it very
uh,
briefly. You said you work in tech.
IT.
Yeah.
IT, but
So, first part of my career was mechanical engineering for a crankshaft milling machine company.
Okay.
So, metallurgy and metal machining, all that kind of stuff.
This is in Michigan, or
Fascinating.
when you were in
This is in Michigan,
Cali-
yeah. Worked for a financial institution in between there, moved into the technology side.
I don't know why you would say that. You seen the Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
Yeah,
It's
George.
just like,
Hey, any of you boys, Smithies? Or, if not Smithies per se, were you otherwise trained in the metallurgic arts before straitened circumstances forced you into life aimless wandering?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Anyway, about a decade in private, working for a private company on the technology side, and then went into consulting.
Okay.
And
for yourself?
No, I worked for a very large
Okay.
company,
Okay.
based out of Florida, who was primarily North America, a little bit of South America, a little bit of Europe
Okay.
in terms of their footprint, but it was mainly like enterprise architecture, so big iron and IT
Got it.
kind of stuff, big business stuff. The last 3 or 4 years, that was with a focus on information security and protecting information, protecting all that
got
kind
it.
of bullshit.
And when your wife came on and was like, I'm doing this thing, was it a big, like, pay cut? Was it a huge
Oh yeah,
change to
Oh,
your
yeah.
family?
yeah. 2-income household down to 1-income household.
You had a kid
Like
at the
there was a
time,
point where she was considering retiring out, and her options changed.
and you were
but-
like, honey, You're working.
Well, no.
that what he said?
Again.
Why will you
the
not let
reason-
me chase my dream?
the
Why
reason
don't you
I-
love me?
Why do you hate me?
The reason we are both very fucking good at what we do is a long lead time, right?
Okay.
So it is a way out there. I want to make some changes. What do I put in place for the next
You guys are planners.
2 years?
You're planners.
I mean, sure.
Are you preppers?
No.
What's the difference?
Guns.
There's no bunker in my basement with a bunch of fucking Chef
Preppers.
Boyardee
I
in
get
it.
you. You know what? In fairness, I see why he asked.
Yeah.
I see why he asked you that.
Is it the beard?
It's a lot of
Hold
things.
on. Hey,
fine.
Buddy does have a lot of guns.
I do enjoy shooting.
Yeah, he does.
But
absolutely.
you're not a
shooting.
prepper.
But I'm not a prepper, no.
Yeah.
No. I was a Boy Scout. That's as close as it gets.
Yeah, that's fair.
So anyway, so a lot of lead time to prep into these kind of things
Right.
and to be ready for those kind of things. So the exit from my consulting was not a like one day pull the ripcord and I'm like, you got the ball.
Right.
Because we had relocated back to Michigan kind of in between there because she knew her career path was changing with the company she worked for back here. So that decade in the consulting space is what led to a lot of the conversations we've had where it's a big part of what I did then that lends into what I do now is translation. We're taking incredibly complex technological ideas, explaining it to guys who have an MBA but have never plugged their computer in before.
It's
Sound
coaching.
familiar?
It's
Sound
coaching.
familiar?
This guy
It
right
seems
here.
like
Yeah.
coaching, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason I was great at that job was translation, like the ability to take complex and put it in simple terms. How much of our mastery conversations is around that? Like it's the same skill set, just applied to different things.
Jay and Marcus and I talk about that quite a bit, that like all three of us translate for each other like very often, where Marcus is like this and I'm like, that's not what he means, or vice versa, and he's like, this is really what he means. So it's like, it actually, I still don't know why it works.
The three of us?
Yeah.
Because you have a
Mostly
common
because-
language
because of
between
me.
the three of you.
Me.
Or you have a translator sitting in the middle. Yeah. One or the other.
Marcus and I have an equal hatred for you, so we have to join forces. Yeah.
What is it?
The enemy
of my
of
enemy?
my something
No,
something.
and I
something.
do. I agree with you, and I think a lot of that has almost become silent. Like Fern will say something, he'll say something. I'm like, I know what he's saying.
Yeah.
He didn't just say that, but I know what he means.
Yeah, but that's not how it started at the beginning.
No, yeah,
it
that's
was
years of working.
We have to
together.
negotiate the new language.
right
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New member.
Yeah,
what
so-
we're telling them what a squat means.
Jay's gonna have a freak out here in about 3 months, so everybody get prepared. And then Jay freaks out, and we're like, "There it is! I told you guys."
He literally.
the
I'll be like,
what is it?
dude.
The doomsday clock
No,
starts.
I just
100%.
I'll call him one day and be like, he's like, yeah, I know.
Right on time.
Yeah. He's like, well, there was one recently.
I'm like this, and this, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, he was like, you're having a kid and this. I'm like, okay, as long as you saw it. Like, and I was like, next time, tell me I'm gonna have it.
It won't
But it's
matter.
true, yeah.
You're like, no, because you're just like, no, I'm not. I'm fine. I'm gonna be just fine. And I'm like, probably not, but we'll all deal with it when we get there.
Yeah,
I'm like, you can't talk to Katie for 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's like, we all feel it. So
You're freaking out the whole team, Jay.
it's
Yeah.
good though. It's a common vernacular.
Yeah, common language.
The other thing that we had kind of gone back and forth on quite a bit, which we do with a lot of affiliates, was just like, I don't know how many iterations, but just like sales process, onboarding, and because there's principles obviously, and there's the overall idea of it, but like it is very unique to each affiliate, and I feel like are on the cusp or have gotten to one, you're like, hey, I really like this version. Yeah.
Super happy with that.
Yeah.
I've been using it for probably close to a year now.
Yeah.
No, probably 16 months.
Yeah.
What's it
Our,
look like?
as cooked onboarding process. It's three conversations, the way I'll say it. First one is that cold, what am I walking into intro, sit in chairs and talk about life sort of discussion. And it is very much an introduction to our facility. It's outside of class times. There's no fucking zombie land at the end of a class that they're seeing suffering. It's quiet. It's calm for a
Safe.
CrossFit space. It's
safe.
safe, right?
Yeah.
We're sitting in chairs. We're not standing next to barbells, right?
It's not chaotic.
It's a very curated process, is
Right.
the way I would describe it.
And that is, I'm glad you said that, because that's the point, meaning like you put a lot of thought into like, how do I want this interaction to be perceived for the person that comes in here? Yeah.
What is the order of the questions that we ask?
Right.
What is the order of the information that we share? How safe do I want them to feel before I walk them out back and they see tires? They see Ackerman-sized tires out back.
Right. So little
Huge.
tiny, little bicycle
Huge.
tires.
Jacked tires.
No, but I think that's a big takeaway because a lot of people with their on-ramp, they're like, I need to, recreate the level 1, 2,
Yeah.
and 3, right, in these 3 hours.
Or it's going to be 12 sessions of PT. And it's
And
like,
I know we had talked about it, and we've worked through with many of our clients, like, We're just trying to get these people comfortable.
What were you doing before? I don't even remember at this point.
I've always done a combination of 2 or 3 sessions.
Right.
So what we changed in this one was put a consult into the equation that is almost mandatory. There's very few exceptions. The consult is mandatory. The onboarding is, I'll say it's fucking mandatory. If Castro walks in and wants to join my gym, he's going through my onboarding.
Well, let's be honest.
I've said it to everybody.
Well. he does.
That is not what I'm saying.
Have you seen that deadlift?
But
Still going.
So those next 2 sessions, it's, we do a squat and pull.
Right.
And then we do a hinge and push. We have a little short
Not to say that
metcon
you're
at the
going
end.
through teaching those.
No,
Yep,
no. We
go.
do a little bit of like what's an overhead squat versus a front squat versus an
Right.
air squat with a PVC. Super basic shit.
Exposing you to it, so you're like, what's happening?
How do I want you to grab the bar? But I'm also, the output of that in my coaching team is we're assessing each of those 4 movement patterns and saying their squat is brilliant, but their overhead is really bad, or they got shoulder surgery and they're really only a one-arm athlete overhead. So the output is not just they feel about a safe space, it's we know them. We have communications happening on the coaching staff to say, here is the assessment package for that client.
And I think that's where the disconnect is, because we've talked about it at length with a guy like, hey, don't teach the 9 foundational movements. It has nothing to do with the 9 foundational movements. It has to do with the teaching environment that's happening there. But what you're doing is like, what are the general patterns that I need to be able to see? Can I bake those into work? Squat, hinge, overhead. Okay. Well, there's a lot of ways to do that. Overhead is not only with a barbell.
Sure.
Hinging is not only with a barbell, right? Squatting doesn't have to be with load.
Yeah.
Like all of those things are like, cool. And as a coach if you're practicing your craft, and you've said this before, I don't need to see you do that much to figure out, like, hey, we're going to be struggling with the overhead squat, so maybe we'll start with the front squat. Like, I like swing a kettlebell.
Yep.
American swing, and I will probably be able to sort you out pretty quickly. I'm like, it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
And
then how we integrate that output into the conversation.
Right.
And I think and you guys have probably said this for years, and I just didn't hear it or attribute it to you, but like they have to see safe.
It's the biggest
thing. That's more important.
Are they safe in my space?
It's the most important
piece. Then I can coach you now.
Yeah. Well, and I talk demographics all the time. Like we're 70% female, 70% of them are working moms or moms, right? Like we know our friggin' demographic. I'm a mom gym, and I want it no other way.
So
it's a great clientele. But what am I going to do with that?
Biker guy as the mom gym.
I'm like, if you had like only
I am the only male coach on my team right now. If we're talking, how do I make the demographics work?
He left out the part where everybody has to wear their leather and their colors.
Wear your colors. Don't forget.
But how do you make them feel safe? Right? It's like you talk about I want range of motion last. I want mechanical proficiency first. I want mechanics. And then I'm going to let you go a little fast for the workout. At the end of it, you get your sweat. We feel good. But how that pervades into you've had an entirely coached experience. You've been taught. You've been corrected. You've been told to move a little faster, told to pull it back a little bit. Every part of the thing they're going to feel in a normal class when they're 1 of 15, they've got a dose of it wasn't scary anymore. So that feels like the most important part of the onboarding process.
Yeah, I try to tell people, I'm like, what you're trying to do, they need to feel safe, and part of that is trusting you. So however you design it, what I want is like, hey Jay, here's what you're going to be doing today. Here's what's going to happen in the workout. Here's the score we're looking for, and then I take you through it. That happens, and you're like, yeah, he told me I was going to get that. That's what I got. He probably knows what he's talking about.
I got a little bit more trust than when I walked in.
Right, exactly. And then taking you through that training session, I'm already now prepping the second session, which is I'm like, okay, I'm gonna tweak this next one. And I'm like, hey, here's the set, and the pattern repeats again. I'm like, hey, here's what we're gonna do. Here's how this is gonna work. Here's the target. They land on the target, and they're like, oh, I did it again. So I'm teeing up wins and creating trust, because they're like, he said what was gonna happen, and then what he said actually happened. He must know what he's doing, or she must know what she's doing. So that's the most important piece of an onboarding, and I think a lot of people skip over that because they're just like, I got to teach you all the 9 foundational movements, and I'm like, or not, or you don't.
That's at least 2.
Right. Yeah. So.
And I think that context becomes if they understand what I look for in a squat, a hinge, and a press. If they remember 1/3 of one of those, they're going to feel ahead of the game when they show up for a class that's got some of that stuff in there.
Like you said, if they remember these boxes that are trying to coach too much, they're not remembering any of that.
I saw somebody submitted one the other day. I counted there was 14 movements in the onboarding, and I was like, that's more than the level 1.
Well, what I'll say is,
and it's in 1 hour.
But here's my criticism of that. Tell me you don't want to coach as hard when they show up for their first class. That's an indicator. If you're trying to shove that much into onboarding, it's because you're not ready for a newbie on your floor.
I've said that from day one. I was like, that is an attempt to buffer what is going to happen in the class. And I'm like, it's not going to work anyway. Like, you're going to take them through that. They're still going to move like they're going to move.
Yeah.
And at which point you're still going to have to solve that problem.
Yes.
So it's like, I tell people in the same thing in the level 2 environment when they're like coaching and they're like, all right, you're going to do, and they rattle off everything they ever known about the overhead squat. And I'm like, there's no amount of front loading of information in this environment that is going to make Jay move better. He just moves like trash. You know, so.
What's next at Jack Pine?
Continued incremental growth, right? Like sustainable incremental. I'm about to start bringing in some new coaches.
Yeah.
Want to buffer that side of it back up again. Kids program is kind of relaunching around school year kicking off.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of keep internalizing the stuff that we've been working through.
Yeah.
We have done like zero on social media website side of things from the affiliate U and developmental point of view. It's been last, and we're still
not because I didn't tell him to.
No, because I'm like, that needs to be last. I got a bunch of shit to fix.
Right.
But just because in the timing wise, that was the one that needed to come last. So
well, going back to
that up.
what I said earlier, you're like, I'm doing it in this order. I was like, okay, that's fine.
And I think that's
as
good.
long as we get there.
To know who you are.
Yeah.
To thy own self be true.
Oh, it's profound. I don't
I made
think
that
that's
up.
the quote, but yeah.
It's you.
I made that up on the spot. Dude, I enjoy working with you, buddy. I know Fern does.
I enjoy talking to you because it's always very clear to me when somebody like has put a lot of thought into doing something, like whatever it's gonna be, whether they're gonna move the rowers over there or whether they're like, hey, when do I send this email? And it's just like, I appreciate thoughtfulness in anything, in any endeavor, and that's always what I've appreciated about you. I think that has a lot to do with where you're at currently, what your future success will be. And it's just fun, man. It's fun to work with gym owners who are there for the right reasons, trying to do it really, really well, and then getting to hear all the success stories. You're like, oh, this is, we had a great month. And I'm like, good, that's what it's supposed to happen.
Well, and I think and again, another part of that onboarding conversation I always have is like, I have no interest in training competitors. It's not my lane. Like, you guys had Ben Bergeron earlier. I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for. Like, I don't want to, like, I'd be stoked to sit here with an athlete, but that's not my purpose. Like, my coaching trophy wall is people taking off insulin and kids taking off antidepressants. I'm like, that's it. That's the win column for me.
Yeah.
Everything we're doing is driving in that direction because that's just normal people problem.
That's
cool.
Awesome. That's
cool.
awesome stuff.
That's really cool.
Buddy, we love you. We love you. I speak
man.
for the entire team with the exception of Katie.
Yeah, Katie is still holding that
still
against you.
apologizing
Is she back?
Yeah, she's
Katie,
over
come
there.
here. Katie, come on. I'm gonna hop off for a second.
No, we have
the growth experience.
We have the mic.
Katie, buddy wants to say something to you.
Katie, come here. Listen,
Buddy,
the fans want young Katie.
Who wants to see young Katie and Buddy reconnect?
Well, do you remember what I did?
Of course she does. She mentions it at least.
Okay, because I don't remember. I just remember I was super rude to Katie.
I'm like, Katie, what's wrong? She's like, I'm still upset about how Buddy treated me.
I was like, Katie, why are you crying today? She's like, Buddy yelled at me 3 months ago. What happened? Do you remember?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You remember when like you were reaching out to him and like you reached out to me like Buddy's mad. Like Buddy's mad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
What happened? What happened, Katie? Tell your side. He said it was all your fault. What did you say?
Yeah. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was just an email, and it was the time of day that I sent the email. That's what
Probably. That's probably
sent an email
ridiculous.
at the
It's a
wrong time of
ridiculous thing
day?
to be frustrated about. Like, how dare you?
It was probably more
It was me
context,
time.
but that's what
It was
I...
me time.
No. What I actually remember now what it was is like you had sent an email like, hey, we're coming over this time frame, and he was just like, a little bit more heads up would have been nice.
Yeah.
Oh, it was the graduation thing.
Right,
It was like,
Oh, yeah, you're
graduating
graduating
next month. I'm like, I'm not even half done. What are you talking? I can't go that fast. This is some
Katie,
bullshit.
At which point I
out.
found out, and I was like, hey, do you need more time? And he was like, I would appreciate it. And I was like, done. Turns out I know a guy who knows a guy, and we can make that happen for you. So
Typical Katie, though.
Yeah.
I will
Panic
say.
this long. I sent one email I should have deleted.
Katie was you. She was like, he's done. His time is up. We were getting rid of him.
We said, Katie, we like, but I do not.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's have a group hug.
Yeah, group hug. Katie, get in here.
Buddy,
Thanks, Katie, for
Fern.
forgiving me.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's the best. You're the best.
Katie's back. Best day of the week? What day?
Monday.
There you go. Cool. Dude, thanks for coming out. It's always a pleasure to jam and chat with you. It's been really fun, and I can't wait to see your success in the future, dude.
Awesome.
Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
See you guys next time. Thanks for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. We appreciate you listening and choosing to have us help you in your passion for coaching and affiliate ownership. You can find more episodes just like this on all podcast platforms. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us on any social media platforms, or you can visit www.besthouroftheirday.com to book a call. If you found this episode helpful for you, please share it so that we can help other coaches and affiliate owners to help build a bigger and stronger CrossFit community. Thanks for listening.